some experts out there are claiming that L-Citrulline is better than Citrulline Malate.
This is my dream, time to manifest it. Hey. I've been starving on my demons, slay like anorexic. Why you present? Stop with all the questions, time I teach a lesson.
What is up, team? This is Quinn Stilson with the Quinn Coaching. Today talking all about citrulline. Is it a supplement that's going to increase your pumps, let you pump out a few more reps until you get to failure, and will it also increase your strength and power metrics? Could it even increase your aerobic and anaerobic power? We're going to talk all about that. We're also going to touch on what Jim was just talking about. Should you take pure citrulline or citrulline malate? What dose should you take it at? When should you take it? And finally, we'll get to all of the evidence-based science in regards to, is it actually going to benefit you sporting-wise and also possibly clinically? Is it actually going to lower your blood pressure even? We're going to talk all about that. And first, as always, though, we need to talk about the mechanism of action of citrulline to actually see what benefits it could have based on the science and based on how it is proposed to work. Now, citrulline is a non-essential amino acid. When it gets into the blood, then it creates another amino acid called L-arginine. Now, so we get L-citrulline, we go to L-arginine. What does L-arginine do? Well, L-arginine essentially, for our purposes, increases nitric oxide. Why do we care about that? Well, nitric oxide is going to do a few things. One is going to dilate blood vessels, or it has a vasodilatory effect. You can imagine now by increasing the diameter of those blood vessels, you're going to get more blood flowing to your muscles in order to give your muscles more oxygen in order to produce more ATP, or that molecule that gives us energy to perform work. So we're getting more energy, we're removing more waste products because now more blood is flowing through the muscles in order to pick up more waste products from that muscle. And then we're also going to get that better pump, supposedly, because that's what a pump is. Essentially, we're just allowing more blood to flow to the muscles, and you get that pump feeling when you're working out. That's one thing nitric oxide does. Dilates those blood vessels and gives us those effects I just talked about. And the second thing it does is it actually improves skeletal muscle contraction. It improves its efficiency, so it actually has to use less ATP in order to contract the muscle. So not only are we going to be able to produce more ATP because we're getting more oxygen to the muscles in order to get more ATP produced, but we're also going to have to use less ATP because nitric oxide actually improves the efficiency of contraction, or the efficiency of actually using that ATP that we just produced by increasing the nitric oxide levels. So just based on that mechanism, you can imagine how citrulline supplementation and nitric oxide level increasing is going to actually help us. Well, it's going to allow you to pump out more reps to failure because you have more energy, you have more oxygen going to your blood. It's going to give us that pump because we have more blood flowing to the muscles. And also it may allow us to recover better and improve soreness because we are decreasing the waste products. We're removing more waste products by allowing more blood to flow through the muscle. With that being said, you might be wondering, why would we not just supplement with L-arginine then? Here's the thing. L-arginine, when it gets taken up into the bloodstream from the gut, one, it's less readily absorbed than is citrulline. And two, when L-arginine is taken up from the gut, it goes to the liver where the liver breaks it down, and we get, therefore, less L-arginine finally being into the bloodstream. Versus L-citrulline, one, again, it's more readily absorbed into the bloodstream from the gut, and two, when it goes through the liver, there's nothing to break it down like there is for arginine. Therefore, there's actually been studies that have looked at L-citrulline supplementation versus L-arginine supplementation, and they found that citrulline supplementation, paradoxically, increases arginine concentrations more than does arginine supplementation. So you may have heard of people supplementing with arginine in the past, and now why that is such a thing of the past is because these scientific studies have shown that citrulline actually increases arginine more than arginine does. Therefore, citrulline is going to then allow for more nitric oxide production and more of those benefits that we just mentioned. So we know we want to supplement then with citrulline to get that increased nitric oxide production, how are we going to do it? Can we just do it with our diet? Well, citrulline actually is found in cucumbers, melons, and specifically watermelon is its highest dietary source. However, it's only found in doses of 3 milligrams per gram. So in other words, you'd have to take about a kilogram or like 2.2 pounds of watermelon to get an ergogenic benefit from citrulline. So unless you want to start eating a kilogram of watermelon before you work out, I would not recommend that. Instead, you really do need to supplement with citrulline if you want to see these proposed benefits. So supplementing with citrulline is going to be a tricky thing though. We have not had enough studies to really optimize the dose, the timing, and the formulation of citrulline. So we really need to delve into that subject here to figure out how much and when we should be taking citrulline. And this goes back to what Jim was talking about at the beginning of this video in regards to, is L-Citrulline or pure citrulline better than citrulline malate or the other way around? That's where we need to start before we start talking about dosing and timing. Now, first, let's even talk about what is citrulline malate. Well, citrulline malate is just L-citrulline or pure citrulline plus malate or malic acid. Now, malate is essentially a molecule that's used in something called the Krebs cycle. If you haven't heard of that, the Krebs cycle is how our body produces ATP or energy in an oxidative or aerobic manner. So you can imagine the proposed benefit is if you take malate, you're going to be increasing your ATP production even more. And there's actually have been studies that have shown citrulline malate increases ATP production. So you can actually kind of imagine that malate and citrulline may work synergistically because malate is going to be increasing our ATP production by having a molecule that actually increases the cycle that increases ATP. And we also have citrulline, which is increasing nitric oxide, which increases our oxygen content flowing to the muscle. So we increase ATP that way. We also increase ATP by having malate. That's the proposed mechanism. However, there is a big caveat to that. There actually has, never been any studies that have looked at malate in and of itself. We've never seen a study that has demonstrated malic acid increasing ATP levels. That's the first caveat. The second caveat is there also has never been a study that actually has looked at citrulline malate versus L-citrulline. So this channel, I'm all about just giving you guys the scientific facts, and I really want you to then be able to make a decision based on those facts, and I can help lead you towards that decision. What I'm not here to do is make quick judgments on, yes, L-citrulline is better than citrulline malate. Yes, citrulline malate is better than citrulline. I will do that if the science backs it up. Here, it just does not. There is no clear answer. So anybody that's telling you that one is way better than the other, it's purely speculative. And that's fine. They can speculate all they want. That's just not what I'm here to do. I'm here to actually give you what the science has been saying. And that is, we actually don't know if citrulline malate is better than L-citrulline. So which then should you take? Well, here are some more tips and more things we need to talk about in order to help you arrive at that decision, because there is no straight up study showing which one is better than the other. The first thing we need to talk about in regards to these formulations is that we actually don't know how much citrulline is in citrulline malate. Supposedly, it's a 2-to-1 ratio for a lot of these companies, aka for every 2 grams of citrulline you're getting 1 gram of malate. However, when they actually broke down the powder and they molecularly looked at what was in this powder, they found that the actual ratio was 1.1 or 1.6 to 1 at most. So in reality, you're only getting half of the citrulline that they say you're getting. And why do they do this? Well, frankly, citrulline is a more expensive supplement than is malate, so it's cheaper for them to put more malate in citrulline malate. The unfortunate thing for us then is we don't actually know how much citrulline we're getting. So that, in my opinion, is a major downside of taking citrulline malate. When we know that citrulline is the more studied supplement compared to malate, and we know that citrulline has these nitric oxide effects versus malate, we really don't know if that's actually going to provide us any ergogenic or any sporting athletic benefit. Now, that being said, citrulline malate is the more commonly supplemented formulation when we study citrulline. And what they do is they give 8 grams of citrulline malate 1 hour prior to exercise. That is the most common dosing and timing schedule for citrulline supplementation. And the good thing is that if you actually are taking 8 grams of citrulline malate, even if you're getting only 1.1 to 1, you're still going to be getting a little over 4 grams of citrulline, which has been shown to be greater than the minimum effective dose of just pure citrulline, which is actually 3 grams per day, or 3 grams 1 hour prior to exercise, has been proven to increase citrulline levels and provide benefit. So here's how I see it. If you are wanting to supplement with citrulline malate, you believe in those proposed benefits that it also may synergistically increase your ATP more than just citrulline would. Just make sure you are taking 8 grams of it, because then we know for sure that you're getting at least the minimum effective dose of citrulline, and then you also may be getting benefits from the malate in and of itself. The other route you can take is just taking pure L-Citrulline. And when studies look at just taking pure L-Citrulline, they typically supplement with 6 grams 1 hour prior to your workout. Now, if you look at purchasing these, you'll see that, at least at bulk supplements, which is where I get most of my supplements personally, citrulline malate is the same price per gram as just pure L-Citrulline. So you can imagine if you have to take 8 grams of citrulline malate versus 6 grams of L-Citrulline, over the long run, L-Citrulline may be a little bit more budget friendly actually for you. However, that being said, again, you might be getting extra benefit from citrulline malate. It's just not proven. Me personally, I want to know how much citrulline I'm getting because it's a more proven supplement than is malate. And because of that, I just supplement with pure citrulline. However, again, you could go with citrulline malate. It's really up to you. If you do citrulline malate though, just make sure it's 8 grams 1 hour prior to your workout versus L-Citrulline 6 grams 1 hour prior to your workout. If this video is helpful so far, please drop a comment, like, and subscribe for more of these supplement reviews. I'll be releasing them about once a week. And also in the comments, go ahead and drop which supplement you want me to review next. Now, before we actually get into the evidence, one more point to talk about in regards to dosing, timing, formulations, and that is the safety of citrulline. There actually have been really no chronic studies that have looked at citrulline supplementation longer than a 7-day period. So it's hard to say if there are any long-term side effects of citrulline supplementation. That being said, it's a non-essential amino acid, which are very safe in general. I do not expect there to be any long-term health detriments by chronically supplementing with citrulline. Acutely, so just taking it that 1 dose prior to your exercise, the only side effect that's ever been shown is some stomach upset, and that really only occurs when you take doses as high of 15 grams. So really, taking citrulline is very safe. I would not be concerned about taking it in that regard. Now, so we're taking it safely. We're taking either 8 grams of citrulline malate 1 hour prior, or we're taking L-Citrulline 6 grams 1 hour prior or higher, and we're getting that increased nitric oxide effect. Is that actually going to improve our performance or improve clinical health outcomes? Let's look at the evidence. Let's start with the first sporting outcome, and that is aerobic endurance. There was a study called Effects of Citrulline Supplementation on Different Aerobic Exercise Performance Outcomes, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. What they showed was that acute ingestion of 6 to 12 grams 1 to 2 hours pre-exercise in multiple studies demonstrated no benefit in aerobic outcomes. So no improvement in VO2 max, no improvement in time trials, etc. The next outcome to talk about is with anaerobic power then. So now we're increasing intensity a little bit. We're increasing it to 20 to 30 seconds to up to 2 or 3 minutes. Does citrulline help when we're looking at that type of exercise? Well, there's a study called Effects of Citrulline Supplementation on Exercise Performance in Humans, a review of the current literature. And this review essentially demonstrated that there was only a few studies that looked at anaerobic power as far as an outcome for citrulline supplementation. And they were kind of a mixed bag. There's only a few, a couple of them showed no benefit. There was one, however, titled Acute Citrulline Malate Supplementation Improves Maximal Strength and Anaerobic Power in Female Masters Athletes Tennis Players, which demonstrated a positive effect for cycling power, explosive power, and grip strength in these tennis players when they were supplementing with citrulline. However, like I said, there were a couple studies that also looked at anaerobic power, which demonstrated no benefit. So for that reason, this type of exercise, it's kind of up in the air whether citrulline would benefit it. I'm leaning towards it likely does marginally based on the studies we've seen, but it's definitely not a scientifically proven benefit. And finally, let's look at high intensity strength and power performance. There was a study titled Acute Effects of Citrulline Supplementation on High Intensity Strength and Power, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. They looked at outcomes such as how many reps could be performed to failure. So this is really what a lot of you are probably wanting to know about. Does citrulline actually allow you to pump out more reps? And they also looked at outcomes such as, does it actually increase your 1 rep max strength? Does it increase your power? And what they found was it actually did improve these outcomes, however, very marginally. It was a small effect size. It was an effect size that's on the tier level of beta-alanine's effect if you watch that video. It's not on the tier level of creatine or caffeine, which have much more of an effect size and can improve your performance much more. That being said, it was a statistically significant benefit in pumping out a couple more reps to failure, or maybe increasing your strength by about 5% compared to that 10 to 15% we saw with creatine. And finally, the last sporting or gym outcome that I want to talk about is, does it actually improve your muscle recovery and your soreness? There was a study titled Effect of Citrulline on Post-Exercise Rating of Perceived Exertion, Muscle Soreness, and Blood Lactate Levels, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. And what they found was it actually did decrease perceived exhaustion post-exercise, as well as perceived muscle soreness 24 to 48 hours post-exercise. It did not, however, demonstrate a decrease in lactate levels. So, based on this study, it actually could improve your recovery and improve your perceived soreness, probably due to its increased nitric oxide, its increased blood flow to the muscles to remove those waste products and improve your recovery because of that. The last section I want to talk about here is, does it actually improve clinical or health outcomes? There's a study titled The Effects of Oral L-Arginine and L-Citrulline Supplementation on Blood Pressure. They found that it actually lowers blood pressure by 4 to 7 points systolic, or that top number, or 2 to 3 points diastolic, or that bottom number. And this is actually a huge effect. It's similar to the blood pressure lowering effect that we would see with lifestyle changes, which is really the first line that we refer patients to in order to lower their blood pressure. It's that lowering the salt intake, improving the diet overall, improving exercise. Doing all these things lowers blood pressure by about 4 to 7 points systolic, or 2 to 3 diastolic. And L-citrulline was proven to do about the same. So this really does have a proven benefit to lower blood pressure. So those are the benefits, the dosing, the timing that we at least know. Based on all of that, and based on the scientific mechanism of action, the safety, what are my final recs on this supplement? Well, first off, if you are not taking creatine or caffeine yet, you need to be taking those two before you start even thinking about citrulline and beta-alanine. They have a much higher effect, like I just mentioned. And if you want to learn more about those, check out my podcast. I have one on each of creatine and caffeine. Now, say you are already supplementing with creatine and caffeine and you're thinking about getting another supplement. Citrulline may be a good one to reach for. Let's talk about citrulline versus beta-alanine. If you are in that 30-second to 2-minute exercise range, beta-alanine is probably the way to go. We already talked about in the beta-alanine video, it has proven benefit in that exercise and in that intensity range. So I would reach for that before citrulline if that is where you're working out in. However, if you're working out in ranges of 20 seconds or less, definitely reach for citrulline before beta-alanine. We talked about that high intensity strength and power outcome and how citrulline actually benefits you there. If you're doing the resistance training that 95% of you are probably doing, citrulline is going to benefit you more than beta-alanine is. It's going to allow you to pump out a couple more reps and allow you to therefore provide a greater muscle stimulus for improved muscle gains and improved strength gains, as was what was seen in the study that we just talked about. And then other caveats, if you're struggling with muscle recovery, citrulline could also benefit you there. And if you have high blood pressure at baseline, citrulline could benefit you there. So in reality, if you're someone who has a little bit higher blood pressure, you struggle with muscle soreness, and you work out with reps with sets 20 seconds or lower, citrulline could be a good one to add, but it's only going to be a marginal benefit for all these categories. So again, take creatine and caffeine first. If you want that extra marginal benefit and you have the money to spend, go ahead and reach for citrulline.